Hi, everybody. My name is Nisha Trivedi, and I'm a senior consultant with MBA Mission. And I was honored to be asked to participate in GMAT Club's Guess Where They Got In exercise. Many of you have probably seen the profile that was posted on GMAT Club of one of the clients that I work with. But what I'll do is I'll recap some of the details of her profile, and then we'll talk about what actually happened with her. Just to start off, the person that I worked with, this was a few years ago. She was an American female, about 27 years old, give or take. And she had a high GPA, 3.7 GPA from a private college on the East Coast. And however, she had studied, more on the liberal arts side and didn't have a lot of quantitative experience. And her GMAT score was on the low side. So a 660 score and lower quant, I believe it was about a 43. And then regarding my client's work experience, she had a few different roles before she applied to business school. She was currently doing marketing and operations at a major national nonprofit organization. And I believe she'd gotten promoted once there. Prior to that, she was actually doing sales strategy for a corporation, so more of a non-nonprofit organization. So she'd been there for a couple of years. And prior to that, she'd actually taught mathematics abroad in Asia. So, definitely a very different start to her path after college, but then worked in sales strategy and then nonprofit afterwards. She was also pretty well involved in extracurricular activities. She had taken a couple of week-long service trips abroad. And when she wasn't doing those trips, she was actively fundraising for the organization at home. A few years before she applied to business school, she had founded an ESL organization. She wasn't actively involved with it at the time that she applied, but it is something that she had done for a few years before applying. So that was, that was definitely a pretty big involvement as well. So pretty well rounded profile. You can see, the one weak spot is, definitely the GMAT, but, strong overall. And her post-MBA goals were in operations consulting or strategy. She had really enjoyed the operations aspects of the roles that she had held to date, making processes more efficient, seeing what could be improved. And so she thought that operations consulting would be a good path for her. And so the school she applied to, she definitely aimed high. She applied to HBS, Wharton, Tuck, and Stern. And she applied for those programs in round 2. So those are the details of her profile. So now, let's talk about what happened. So as it turned out, and I don't have this on the screen, I figured it would be more, climactic if I actually just spoke to it on camera. So what ended up happening is she applied to these 4 schools. Unfortunately, with HBS and with Wharton, she was declined without an interview. At Wharton, she actually had a family, one of her family members had gotten to Wharton. So she thought, maybe that could only help. But, with her, GMAT score being below average and with these 2 programs being incredibly competitive, unfortunately, she didn't get to interview at either of those 2 schools. At Tuck, when she applied, there was still an open interview period going on. So she had the opportunity to sign up for an interview right around when she was applying. She didn't have to wait to be invited. So she was able to interview there, and she did interview on campus. And then when she, after she applied to Stern, a few weeks later, she got a call from Stern, or an email rather, asking her to interview. So she was really excited about that. At that point, she had actually found out that unfortunately Tuck did not work out. And so we knew that Stern was it was the last one of the 4 schools that we were working on together. And ultimately, she interviewed, we practiced, and she was accepted. And she was thrilled about it. She ended up having a wonderful experience at Stern and getting to go into the field of operations consulting. So definitely a very happy outcome. But I thought we would talk about, what she did well throughout the application process and what could have been done differently. So first, let's talk about what this applicant did well. When she wrote her essays, she made a really strong connection between her pre-MBA career and her post-MBA goals in operations consulting. So she made it very clear, what was it about operations consulting that really attracted her? And so, as I mentioned a little earlier, she was able to make a connection between the things that she did in her prior role, where she made processes more efficient, where she constantly looked for ways that things could be improved, and how, as an operations consultant, as she communicated in her essays, she knew that she would have the opportunity to do the same thing, but across industries, and really get a broad exposure to a variety of business problems. And so that's how she communicated her career goal. And that was very effective, the way that she very thoughtfully made the link between her prior experience and her post-MBA role, and how an MBA from Stern would help her achieve that goal through its resources, both within and outside the classroom. And, on top of making her career path and her motivations behind her career path very clear, she also communicated a couple of things. One, her extracurricular impact, the service organization, why it was so important to her. And, even more so, she had this very, very fiery and very energetic personality. And back when she was applying to Stern, they had a video essay. And so, we knew that, given her magnetic personality, she had to do video. There was an option of a written essay, but she knew that a video was right for her. And so, when you're working on schools where there is an option of a video, if you feel like that will get to showcase your personality, certainly take advantage of it. And so she did. And so she was able to talk about, different personality traits and, how, her friends and family saw her, and how, how she embodied this particular trait that she felt defined her the best. And so she really was able to show her personality and both her achievements and her personality outside of work in this essay. And, that was obviously one of the big pieces of what got her an interview at Stern. And then when, it did come time to her practice, she made sure to, practice her interviews using the STAR format. So for example, when she would be asked a behavioral question, such as, tell me about a time that you demonstrated leadership, I made sure that she used the STAR format when answering such questions. So first she explained the situation that she had been in, then the task at hand, and then she talked about her actions that she took in response to this challenge, both individually and with others. And then the R in STAR, the result, she explained what are the results that she achieved as a result of the actions that she took. So that was that was a very good way for her to show the experience she's had to date and the value that she would bring to the program. And during the interview, she also showed some great knowledge of the program itself. Stern in particular is one of those schools where, they're, very proud of the fact that they're in New York City. They know that there are a lot of resources that students can take advantage of. So we made sure that she highlighted these in her interview, and that she talked about what are a couple of companies that she is interested in that have, that are based in New York or that have offices in New York. And so we really made sure she showed a connection between our professional and personal interests and the school. So yeah, so overall, the story did have a happy ending. Again, she got into Stern, she got into a company that she loved, as an intern, and now she's there full time. In terms of what she could have done, maybe more effectively, what she might have wanted to do differently if she had to do this process again, is that, one of the things I mentioned, of course, that's on the slide, is that her GMAT score, was on the low side. She did take it kind of on the later side. And so, I think maybe she took it one other time, but, wasn't able to improve on that score. But, had she taken it earlier, she might have had the option of switching to the GRE. So I would always encourage everyone to, take that test as soon as you can, preferably in the year before you apply. And that way you can build in enough time to take the exam again if you need to, or if the GMAT isn't right for you, you can switch to the GRE or the reverse. So I would say definitely give yourself enough lead time on those tests. Luckily this worked out for her, but the score definitely posed a challenge for the other programs she applied to. And then, the other thing goes to the program she applied to. Definitely there were 4, very competitive programs. And so there are a couple of strategies that an applicant can take. One is to say, I'm only going to apply to, let's say, these 3, 4, 5 programs. And if I don't get in, I'm either going to try again next year or I'm not going, so that's a strategy. The other is, if an applicant is more risk averse and is even more eager to start an MBA program in the following cycle, then what I would encourage that applicant to do is apply to a broader range of programs, just to make sure that they have as many options as possible. So I might have encouraged her to put a couple of more schools on her list. But at the same time, I think her strategy was more aligned to, I like the role that I'm in now. So if these schools don't work out, then I'll apply in round 1 next year. And luckily though, one of them did work out, and that was Stern. And again, she's very happy there. So that's the story of my candidate. I hope that this information helps you as you're evaluating schools, deciding where to apply and putting your strategy together. And thanks for listening. Stay safe, everybody, and good luck with all of your applications this year.